Welcome to this year's Scriptus recap. We said we weren't going back. We were pretty clear on that.
We were very clear.
We were so clear that when people saw us at Scriptus this year, they commented on the fact that we were at Scriptus this year.
We were at the Pelican Hub, and everybody asked about Scriptus, and we said, no, after last year, we're not going back because it didn't feel safe. It was crowded.
I would put in the caveat that I think I use crutches, and that adds a total level of complexity to a situation.
Yes. And I was there, we had Alexandra's auntie Anupa was there, and we were very conscious of the crowd and trying to make sure that nobody knocked Alexandra off her feet. And it was a Pen Show mosh pit.
Yeah.
And that was it. We did it, but we were pretty sure that there was nothing so special about Scriptus that we were ever going to go back again.
Yeah, and then I went to Chicago, and we went to Atlas.
Yeah.
And we don't have to go back. There are other Pen events we really like, and
really great Pen events where you're not in danger, or anybody with mobility issues wouldn't be at risk for attending.
No.
And so we were content with the idea of never going back to Scriptus.
We were.
Until ding, ding, ding. What happened, Alexandra?
Estabrook posted on their Discord that they were going to Scriptus. And I very quickly sent an email and discovered that one of my friends was going to be their point person for the event. It was 2 texts. I guess an email and text. It was a text to Coach Chair Pens and an email to Estabrook. That was it. Which very dramatically changed our Scriptus plans, because previously our plans had been to go into the city,
go to Wonder Pens,
see friends that were in town for the event, and avoid the entire event on Sunday.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty solid plan. That was a plan that I was happy with. It wasn't my ideal Pen show, but it was a Scriptus that I could accept as being my Scriptus experience, because genuinely last year was miserable.
Yeah.
I was constantly afraid somebody was going to knock me over. It just wasn't fun. And I had been to Pen shows this year that were just so much fun, where I wasn't afraid of people knocking me over, that the thought of being in a situation where I was constantly afraid of somebody knocking me over just wasn't appealing.
Well, and I work on corporate events, and we have to be so conscious of what the fire regulations are for number of people in a space. And my takeaway from Scriptus 2023 was that they had paid zero attention to that. And I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I saw the number on the door.
No.
The number on the door is 458, and I am 100% confident that with the people that are working behind tables, plus the event volunteers, were close to 150, and there were more than 300 people in the room. In 2023, there was no room to move around.
Yeah.
And I saw people on mobility scooters, people in wheelchair, multiple people. Alexandra wasn't the only one working with 2 canes, let alone a single cane. It was not a safe situation. And I'd
say they turned it around this year.
Completely
And some of the stuff they've turned around is stuff people are complaining about. The fact that once rooms were at fire capacity, people had to line up, which shouldn't be something to complain about, because you want people to pay attention to fire codes. At one point, you didn't have a vendor badge on you, and you weren't allowed back into a room.
Nope. I was in the lineup, and that was okay. I actually bumped into people who were at the Pelican Hub who said, hey, you said you weren't coming this year. And I explained that Alexandra was at the Estabrook table and that we had been able to arrive at 8 and get into the building immediately, and the difference that it was making having her protected by everybody else with a table, and the fact that people were being put in a lineup inside before going into the room, just to make sure that the fire regulations were being met. And it was great. I actually really enjoyed Scriptus this year and came away with many more things than I had on my list.
Yeah. Last you came home with a Cockano, which was your first pen,
Yes.
and have since acquired many more pens.
Yes. I don't, people have collections of 50 or 100 pens.
Or Hummel figures. You don't collect Hummel figures.
I don't collect Hummels. But I do have, after this year, I'm in a state where I think, okay, I'm good. I have enough.
And then we'll go to Chicago in the spring and you'll see something you like.
Well, I have some more courses.
Yeah.
But I acquired a couple of pens that are beautiful.
Yeah.
And one of them is a complete work of art, and I'm so looking forward to opening it at Christmas and loading it up with some ink.
Yeah. So let's go back to, I guess, Saturday. We haven't talked about Saturday yet.
At Wonder Pens?
At Wonder Pens, because I once again, it's becoming a Scriptus tradition, I don't get my nib work done at the actual show. Wonder Pens and Paper Plus Cloth and a couple other shops bring in the nib meisters a couple days early to do nib work in store. And you can book appointments, but then also if you spend a certain amount on pens, you can normally get an appointment. So I think this year at Wonder Pens, if you spent over $100 on pens, you got a $30 credit towards nib work. You didn't need an appointment.
If I'm spending $100 on a pen, why am I getting nib work done?
Great question. That's an excellent question. I'm sure one of my friends can answer that for you.
I look forward to hearing the answer to my question.
Well, because you can't buy can't buy an architect off the shelf.
I don't like architect nibs.
I know you don't like architects. Well,
I don't like architect nibs. Let's be specific. I am all about architecture. I have a great respect for architects. I don't like architect fountain pen nibs.
Fair. I like architect fountain pens, but you can't really buy those nibs in a pen.
Off
you
the
have
shelf.
to get those custom ground.
Fair enough.
So if you bought a fancy pen, but you really want an architect nib, you'd have to get it custom ground. So a week beforehand, I managed to get a Matthew Chen appointment.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's my third or fourth appointment with Matthew over the past.
Yeah. He's definitely your nib guy.
Well, he seems to understand the direction of, I don't know what I want, please fix.
Please fix.
Which is about all you get with the brain injury sometimes.
Yeah, but please fix is sometimes enough.
Yeah, and for my Pelican, that was enough. It was, this is, I know this isn't right, but I can't explain to you how unright it is and what's wrong with it.
Yes.
And he was able to fix it.
And you're also someone who's been in the fountain pen world for 18 months?
Yeah, about that.
18 months. So
let's call it 18 months.
18 months with a brain injury. So I don't believe that you need to be able to do a full assessment of a pen at this point and understand what's wrong with it. You could identify that this gifted pen wasn't writing correctly.
Yeah.
It wasn't a pleasant experience.
No.
And you took it to Matthew.
And it's quite pleasant now.
And he fixed it.
It is. It's quite pleasant.
You want someone who can take a troubled pen and fix it.
And in my case, I need somebody who can take a troubled pen with minimal directions.
Yes.
And
now, when you go to Matthew, he has
this full set of testers.
He has a full set of testers. So you could, if the nib is it big enough, broad enough, whatever. Depending on what the nib is. Yeah. He can do almost anything. Yeah. But if it's fine or extra fine, then there are limits. But he will take a pen that is not working, and if it is within his abilities, he'll fix it.
Yeah, and it's a lovely pen now. And then he also did a Kaweco Sport nib for me, which is a cursive italic smooth now, which was a suggestion from Julia of Julia here, because I have a thing for Kaweco Sports.
Yes, you do.
I own quite a lot of them, and getting it on a Kaweco Sport nib meant that I could switch it into any of my sports.
Yeah.
Which
Gives you flexibility.
Gives me some flexibility. And we met up with Kari there,
Yes.
who's always fun to hang out with.
Well, and Kari's like she's my fountain pen guru. I really did not get the whole fountain pen thing until Kari and her kids came to visit us during the summer, and she arrives with just
Gotta be close to 100 pens.
fountain pens galore.
All
And
inked up.
all inked up, all ready to go, sticks paper in front of me and says, now you have to try this. Now try this. Now try this. And I was blown away. I was actually really blown away. I really didn't get it until she put an Esterbrook in my hand that was the smoothest writing experience that I had ever had. And it was this Esterbrook, and it was the paper that she had having me try. And suddenly, I'm a lefty, so I don't want paper that doesn't dry fast. Like I don't want to smudge through things. And I still remember writing with her with her Esterbrook.
You did
and
try a
going,
lot of Benus.
And I tried a lot of Benus, and I saw a Benu or two that I liked too. Anyway, but this Esterbrook that Kari put in my hand, and I suddenly went, oh, because I'd only been writing with a Cockano or a Lamy Safari, and there's nothing wrong with those pens as an introduction to fountain pens. I am not dissing them at all. They are still in my rotation of daily drivers. The Cockano's got a waterproof ink in it so that I can do recipe cards and I don't smudge them. I have no issues with those pens at all. But suddenly it was, I'm going to use a car analogy because I really like cars too. It's like driving my parents' station wagon and suddenly somebody's saying, here, try a Porsche. And boy, did I like the Porsche. I really like the Esterbrookes. I really like the Benus. And Kari's been like my fairy pen godmother ever since. When I say, oh, I really liked this particular kind of paper, but I can't find it anywhere, and Kari goes, oh, well, that's 120 gram, blah, 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 and here, have a Leuchtturm.
Yes. As I'm doing stuff at Wonder Pens, I'm talking to people, and Mom and Kari are wandering around Wonder Pens, and Mom is feeling every paper.
I close my eyes, I feel the paper. If it feels like the paper from the Pelican Hub, I'm happy. If it doesn't, it's not for me.
Yeah.
I'm
And so Kari came back to the house. She gave you sort of a bit of a crash course in flossing nibs.
Oh, it was very much a crash
Yeah.
course in flossing nibs, but now I'm not afraid to floss nibs, and now I think I can watch a YouTube tutorial or 10. And I'm happy to, if we're having nib issues, I'm happy to start by flossing and seeing what happens, and then shooting her a DM. But yeah, I'm not I now understand the concept of flossing
Yes,
nibs.
because it's something that she had tried to teach me, but my hands shake a bit too much to do it.
Yeah.
It's a bit too fiddly. And so it was something that I very much needed her to teach you, but I also needed her to teach it to you in person. It's not one of those things that your first introduction to it can be.
No, and I think your first introduction, you want to be trying it on a Cockano.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to be, not a 24, they don't do 24 karat gold nibs, do they? You don't want to do it on a gold nib. You want to start on a Cockano. You want to wiggle it through a Cockano and see, and just get the feel for it.
Yeah. And then you also got to try because as always, Kari brings a huge selection of pens.
Her pens are
know.
just
You got to try a
crazy.
Pilot E95,
Now I go, did I?
the hooded nib one.
Oh, it's so cool. Yes. Oh, it's gorgeous. It is just absolutely gorgeous. It is now on my, I think I want that.
Yeah.
It's just a stunning pen.
It is a stunning pen.
It's, if Airstream campers came in colors, it would be that pen. It is just so beautifully designed. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's very pretty.
Maybe I want one. Damn.
Mother's Day. Mother's Day is just after Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You're getting an Esty for Christmas, but Mother's Day.
All right, well, put that on the list. Yeah.
Love that
It's
you
always-
think I'm not the person that buys your gift anyways.
It's always lovely to have Kari visit because she
This-
comes with just almost cutting edge, the most cutting edge pens. What she brought this summer, and it's amazing to try some of these pens and look at. There are some where the design is spectacular, but the writing experience doesn't match up.
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the reasons why it's so important to go to pen shows or really good pen shops in cities where you can try lots of pens. They'll have them, they might not be inked up, they might just be, dip pens, but to actually try them before you make the shopping decision. We see that at the Toronto Pen Shop and at Wonder Pens and Atlas and Scriptus, and you experienced it at Chicago where people bring their pens, or the Pelican Hub where everybody's bringing their pens for you to try. You're trying pens that you'd just never have the opportunity, especially at the Pelican Hub, because people are bringing vintage and they're bringing new and they're bringing international.
Yeah.
It's really something.
Yeah. So Kari hung out at the house for a couple hours. We
Yeah, went for dinner.
We went out to dinner. It was fabulous. We talked pens at dinner. I think we bored Dad. Dad is
No.
not a huge pen person.
No.
He enjoyed pens.
Kari's husband and your dad
Both work in tech.
both work in IT and were thick as thieves. Everybody
had a great
did
time.
fine.
Which is funny because at Chicago, I don't think they said two words to each other the entire time. Both assumed the other didn't do anything interesting, and so
Yeah.
Kari and I would be deep in discussions, and the two of them would just
On their phones,
yeah.
checking to see what was happening back at the office.
Yeah.
No, swimmingly. They got along swimmingly.
And then it was an early night because we had to be at Scriptus by 8 a.m.
Yeah, really early. So 2023, we were in line at 8:30. We were, 12th in line,
Yeah,
something
something
like that.
like
We were
that.
in the first 20.
2024, we were there at 8 a.m. and the vendor line
literally-
was already
Oh.
20 people, at least like 20 companies deep.
20 companies deep, and every company's got massive carts of product to go
but
in.
Estabrook had managed to get there early, was already upstairs, and so they sent somebody down to come and pick us up.
So we basically just walked to the front of the line and went up and
Yeah.
then started helping set up.
I think we finished setup about 9:30. We got like half an hour to shop, visit with people. And then I sort of felt like I didn't take a deep breath again until about noon. I remember looking down at my watch and it was about to switch over to noon.
It was incredibly,
Because that first 2 hours was slammed.
well, it was constant.
Yeah.
Constant people going through.
It was just constant people.
Yeah. It was
Like
the
that
Estabrook. It
first-
was Estabrook's first time at the show, wasn't it?
No, it was the first. They weren't there last year, but they were there several years before. like they've come back after a break. But the Esterbrook people at the booth
Had never been.
And neither had Couture Pens. You and I were the only people that had done Scriptus before.
And we'd only done it once.
We'd only done it once. And we had not had a great experience doing it that one time.
However, the helpful thing was, for people who had questions,
Yeah.
in the years since, you know who the people are that do great vintage repairs.
Yeah.
And anybody who had been there before was in the same spot. So Stilo was in the same location, and Leywins was in the same location, and Penablers was in the same location. Like people who were repeat customers were in the same locations, and so it was really easy
Yeah.
to
give directions.
give directions.
Because I was we were right at the door, the only door that was letting people in, and we were the first two booths against the wall, and I was at the far end. And so I was the person that would also get the questions of, do you know who does X? And luckily, for the most part, I did.
Yeah.
Because I deal with so many pen shops in the city, I would say.
Yeah.
That and just I have a knowledge of we don't shop at Leywins just because of where they're located, but I'd love to go in. Like, it's just hard to get to. But I know who works with them, and I know the work that they do.
Yeah.
And so things like that just made it easier to direct people on where to go. Because they did also have a downstairs room this year. I never made it down. You did.
Yeah. And it was, I want to say there were maybe seven vendors down there.
Yeah.
But that's just a guess. I didn't
think-
actually count the vendors. One of the vendors had a number of tables.
Yeah, Bleskett. Bleskett.
I don't know who Bleskett is. You do.
I do.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It was not a large room, but it was a very busy room. It was, vendors around the outside of the room, plus a vendor in the middle that had multiple tables, so there was limited room to get around.
Oh.
There was a very large lineup in the afternoon for people who wanted to get in, but clearly security was paying attention to the fire regulations and not overloading the space. There was not a lot of room to maneuver in that room.
No. And I would say...
And there was what I can tell you is that there was one vendor who was dealing solely in very high-end Mont Blanc pens, like very high-end. And his was the table that made the biggest impact on me just because of the price points. Sorry, I can't tell you a lot.
I know
about that
Madoku was
space.
down there.
Was Madoku down there?
They had a single table.
Oh, maybe that's why I missed it. We really like Madoku. They're
do.
a great art supply store, pen supply store.
Yeah, they've expanded
near
into
us.
fountain pens. They're where I tend to get traveler's inserts.
Yep.
They almost always have them all in stock.
They always have a really good supply of Ferris wheel pressings and travelers, and I think some higher end pens.
Yeah, so at their annex location, they stock sailor pens.
Okay. Good for
So
them.
At some point, we'll have to make it down to the annex.
The beach location is closer to us, so that's where we tend to go to.
Yeah.
And
then upstairs, I would say the only room that really felt crowded was the Epic room, which is the big room.
the big room, yep.
Which is where Stilo and Wonder Pens are.
Yeah.
And where Gortzman's was this year, and where Paper Plus Cloth is, and where the Scriptus booth is. And that room just always sort of feels crowded. I always feel like...
Wonder Pens always has a massive line for.
Which is interesting because they're in the city.
Yeah.
I never expect them to be as busy as they are because they're in the city of Toronto.
They always have the biggest lineup.
They do.
And I don't know if it's people out of town ordering and doing pickups or what the
yeah.
deal is, but massive lineup, like 30 people in the line all the time.
Yeah. And I never saw it this year double back, but last year it definitely did at times.
Yeah.
And then Gorsman's was there because they're in soft openings of their new store location. So it was great to see their team.
And they're, I would call them a recent...
I would say they're expanding into the fountain pen world.
Yeah.
They're not...
They've been doing
They're
fine art
arts.
supply for generations. Safe to say?
Yeah, I think it's fourth or fifth generation.
I can't tell you that, but I know that my sister knew Mr. Gortzman Sr. From her university days, and we're dealing with his daughter Jackie.
Yeah.
And
I met Jackie's daughter.
yeah.
At the event. So I'd say the only room that felt crowded was the Epic room, which it always does, because there's always a line.
Yeah.
It's like Stilo is always crowded. Like I always feel like that room, which has tables on the sides and then 2 sets of table groups in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like they could go down to 1 in the middle. Like they'd lose out on so many vendors, but it would just flow better. Like it wouldn't be as crowded.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I don't know either.
I know. I think it was better this year with security.
Oh, it was definitely better
controlling
this year.
the volume of people, and everybody got in.
Yeah.
Just not all at the same time.
Other than the people that saw the line, got really angry about it, posted about how angry they were on social media, and then left. But
well,
also
that's their
that
fault because I was in a line, but I wasn't in the line for more than 10 minutes.
Yeah. So, honestly, I quite enjoyed myself this year.
Yeah. No, it was great.
Sold some pens at Estabrook. You bought an Estabrook?
I bought some stuff.
You bought some stuff. I bought some stuff not from Estabrook.
Yeah.
But still came home with 2 Esties. We had a great time. Hopefully Estabrook comes back next year.
I thought Scriptus was wonderful this year.
Yeah, hopefully Estabrook comes back next year and we can, join their team again. Because I think being behind a table is the only way I'd do Scriptus.
Yeah.
It's just...
Well, you could do it. You could do it as long as they continue to pay attention to crowd control. And
yeah,
I think they will.
Liked,
that made all the. I get that you really enjoyed the experience of being on the vendor side of things.
I did, but what I was also going to say is I liked being able to just sneak out from behind the table when it wasn't super crowded.
Yeah.
Like I did get to shop during the afternoon.
Yeah.
When we'd have when there'd be a big lull in the crowd and.
Yeah. Or a big enough lull.
Or a big enough lull that 1 or 2 of us, of the 4, could sneak away from the Estabrook table for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Well, I think that's our last pen show of the year.
It is November.
It is November. It is November 1st, and I think we are done with pen shows for the year.
Oh, here, guys, I got you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll get you. DM me on Instagram and I'll get you the footage. Yes. Just send me a DM.
Welcome to Scriptus. You're the first to be here. Welcome. There's a cool check if you go down to the next door.
I'm cold, still cold.